Anyone here ever have a paranormal experience that has really shaken them? Like, made you change your entire worldview? Lake Okeechobee, Florida. 7th largest body of fresh water in the United States. Fishermen used to, and still, end up pulling up large amounts of human remains. Thought to be a burial ground used by the Seminoles and other Native Americans. Hurricane of 1928. 2,500 dead after 8-foot storm surge from the lake wiped out nearby communities. All buried in a mass grave. Lots of stories of hauntings nearby. 3 years ago, a few friends and I rent a boat to go fishing on the lake. At night with calm waters. Strolling the deck, looking at the stars. Feel like I'm being watched. See movement out of the corner of my eye over the water. Oh boy, hope it's not a fucking gator. See a human skull peeking out above the water. Lock eyes, or eye sockets, on each other. Immense set of dread sets in. Scream at my buddies to wake up while running to draw the anchor and get the fuck out of there. Hear some splashing and almost have a heart attack while hoisting the anchor. Done. Rush to the helm. Full power to engines. Friends are still asleep. Get out of area and coast around slowly while keeping an eye out so not to waste too much fuel. Morning comes. Friends wake up. Anon, why are we 30 miles from where we anchored? I heard this is better fishing ground. I never told them since I don't think they would believe me. I have never been so scared in my life. The strangest thing is that I had to fight this weird feeling of jumping into the water. I have epilepsy for about 7 years now. I'm 25. Throughout those years, I had multiple Final Destination-like dreams. It was never someone dying. Most times, it's someone betraying me or lying at me. Well, now the spooky part. Those dreams, they're random. I was in a relationship for 4 years. It was the best. Never scared she would cheat, no arguments, no problems, ever. So, no reason to be concerned about her. Out of nowhere, I have this dream where she's cheating on me with some tattooed guy with black hair. Of course, I wasn't concerned because it was a dream, but I still had to tell her to be sure. Told her my dream and asked her if I should worry. Her jaw dropped in this moment. I couldn't have known about him. She covered it up pretty good. And also, I trusted her, so I didn't spy on her or something. She tells me we have to talk. Tells me that we need a break. Breaks up with me. I ask her 1,000 times, is it because of someone else? No, no, no. One fucking day after the breakup, a friend spots her on a party, making out with a guy. Okay, I'm tilted as fuck. Look for his Facebook. Big, tattooed guy with black hair. And when I saw him, I knew immediately that it's exactly the one I dreamed about. I've had several dreams like that, and in 100% of all cases, I was right. I read a lot about epilepsy, and apparently, I'm not the only one having these visions. Old Roman empires had people with epilepsy as their helpers. They would be asked about the outgoing of wars, or who will be king, and etc. I don't know. It might be coincidence. But to be honest, the dreams are always 100% like it happens in reality. It scares me bad. Especially because I also dreamed about killing people. And it felt like I actually killed them while sleeping. I never know when my dreams come true. But if they do, I don't want to end up in prison. Sorry for the long story. Have a nice day. Growing up, our family lived in a rural part of Australia, beyond the black stump, and our backyard was practically the bloody shrub. My family has, for many generations, served in the military. My father served in the Somalian War, grandfather in Vietnam, his father in World War II, and his father in World War I, and so on. I never had any interest in the practice, since it turned my father into such a violent person. Whenever he would act out or get on the piss, I would just hop over our back fence and take a stroll in the shrub and want to come back for hours. Just a bit of context for the green text. 16 years old, Dad gets on the piss, so I ditch the place. It's about 5:30 p.m., so the sun's about to disappear. Don't care, it isn't the first time I've been out during dark. I walk for 10 minutes in a straight line. There's a stone that I've marked as a guide. There are several others along the way. Been out now for probably 30 minutes, and I try a different path today. Discover a gully, about 2 meters wide, and God knows how many meters in depth. It looks like the earth just opened up. Pick up a few stones and throw them in one at a time. Listen for when they drop. Didn't hear shit. Just the fucking mynah birds. Since I'm a stupid teenager, I thought it would be a cool idea. I was gonna jump this gully. 2 meters doesn't seem that hard. 2 meters isn't hard, but this gully just sucked me in halfway through the jump. It was like gravity just concentrated on this one bit. I catched a withered lemongrass on the other side and almost have a heart attack. Scramble up onto the other side and almost burst into tears. Shit scared I was gonna die. Not jumping over that cunt again. Opt for walking around it. After that, I just wanted to get home. Can't find the stones and stone mounds that I had been placing around as guides. They've just disappeared. By now, the sun's almost gone. It's getting darker, and the guiding stones are gone. Like any lost kid, I panic. I break into a small jog, then I start racing about madly. I try my best to remember the path home. I was out there for about another hour, on the verge of tears. I resort to yelling for help while running about. I take a breather, but still call out for help. I hear walking behind me. Thank fuck, someone's here to help. It's just a wall of shrubs and gums behind me. It's hard to see, so I call out. Hey, who's that? No response. I get this chilling feeling, sort of instinctual. Something's just off. As I call out, they respond. It isn't even a word, just like a short yell. Like when you hit your head on something or stub your toe. Whatever it was, it sounded human. Scares me half to death, and I run. While I'm running, I can hear running behind me. It's gradual, but the running behind me is starting to draw nearer until it's practically on my heels. I try weaving left and right behind trees, but it doesn't work. I had no idea how long I was running out there for. The last thing I remember is a branch hitting my throat and my head connecting with the ground. Woke up the next morning covered in mosquito bites and a harsh sunburn. Immediately got to my feet and started looking for home. The fence was no more than 20 meters from where I woke up. Ran inside the house. Mom was a bit shaken. Dad didn't seem to care. Took a bottle of water from the fridge and a packet of chips from the pantry and locked myself in my room. Played vidya and watched TV for the rest of the day. Ever since then, I never went back into the shrub, and I always get a fright whenever I hear walking or running behind me. Girlfriend says there might be a ghost in our apartment, but doesn't want to talk about it. Yeah, sure. Later I just say out loud, "If there's someone here, give me a sign." Lamp goes out, and then fades back slowly. Oh my god, it's real. Okay, thank you. I won't bother you anymore. Be me, around 5 to 6 years old, sharing room with my older brother. Our beds are parallel on opposite sides of the room. I wake up for some reason. It's late, way past bedtime. Notice neighbor's motion-activated light is on. It's dead quiet, no crickets, and the house isn't even creaking. It's an old house and creaks and settles all the time. I have an uneasy feeling in my gut, and a looming sense of dread is rising all around me. Something compels me to look out the window, facing our backyard. I get out of bed and climb over my brother. I can feel him breathing as I scramble over. I part the blinds to take a peek, and I see it. It's got its back to me and looks like a large orange house cat. Sense of dread rising and feeling terrified and not understanding why. As if on cue, the cat thing turns its head and looks directly at me. I try to scream, but nothing comes out. Its face looks almost human, but has colorations similar to a mandrill. Its eyes are pitch black pits with no shine or sparkle. It stares at me for a while, and I just stare back. The creature opens its mouth wide, as if it were roaring or meowing, but there's no sound. I feel an intense pressure pushing around my head. It feels like it's pulsating. Dread and fear reach unbearable levels. I cover my ears because it feels like I can hear it despite no sound at all. I can feel the malice radiating from this creature. It did not want to be seen. It closes its mouth and just glares at me as everything starts to go black. I wake up in my own bed as if nothing had happened. Still scared, but think nothing of it until my brother asks why I was in his bed last night. Too scared to share with him what I saw in our backyard while we slept. "12 years old. Spend the summer with the tribe on the res. Adopted out cause res life was bad when I was born, and I'd have probably died from gang activity by now if they hadn't sent me away. Uncle is teaching me shit about being a medicine man, cause my dad, whose job that would have been, is dead. Literally the first exposure to anything actually native. Goes okay for the most part. Has me help with setting up the lodge for a Sundance. Part of the setup is taking a boatload of burning ash and sage and blessing a circle roughly 1 mile in radius from the lodge. Apparently, this is new cause shit's happened the last few years, and my uncle got some vision or something that this was the cure to the problem. Uncle, up until the lodge, focused heavily on proper decorum and prayers for the Sundance. Pulls me aside when we're setting camp up. Tells me to never leave camp alone, or at least without sage. Apparently this is common practice, but I'm new, so I figure he's just making sure. Says if anything happens that I can't explain or doesn't seem right, I run as quick as I can back to the lodge, no stopping. Things go fine for the first day, and I'm mostly kept busy by various chores. Uncle's the presiding elder, so he gets to be a firekeeper, singer, and blesser for 3 days straight. No sleeping, cause the other 5 elders are dancers. I'm his assistant essentially, and protege, so I'm basically allowed some sleep in the morning prior, but that's it. Firekeeping turns out to be Uncle, 5 older guys, a 20-year-old something, another kid roughly my age, and me shooting the shit around the fire, keeping it alive. Fire's not allowed to burn out, or else we have to strike camp, move at least several miles away, leave a skin offering, and start the 3-day Sundance all over. Shit's bad because that probably would kill the older dancers, so best keep the fire fed and alive. We've all been drinking coffee to stay fresh, so sometime later at night, nature calls. Me, kid my age, and the 20-year-old something go take a leak. Blessed ground, so can't desecrate it. Have to walk the mile to the borderline. About 3/4 the way there, the 20-year-old something stops us. "You guys seeing that?" Not sure how I missed it, but there's 5 lights out in the tall grass, about 3-ish miles off in the prairie. Looks like someone left a lantern out there essentially. Far off and on the neighbor's land, so whatever. Get to the border, and just decide to piss over it. Just get started when the 20-year-old something starts wildly smacking my back and pointing, Dude, what the fuck? Already edgy because it was dark, and I still had a mild fear of it back then. Him wildly smacking makes me panic just enough I sort of wildly whip my head around. Finally focus to see there's more circles of light than I can count, offhand swirling around, but absolutely on this side of the road, and about 1.5 miles closer. Takes maybe a second to realize they're getting closer pretty fast. Takes maybe a second for them to reach us. Don't remember anything up until I'm running my ass faster than I ever ran before to the lodge, and hurriedly bless myself and the other two with sage. Uncle's pissed as shit, asking where we've been and to keep it down cause we just ran screaming into camp and are waking the dancers. Don't even remember what I said, but it was something along the lines of 2 kids and a grown-ass man gibbering over each other about something in the grass and how it's in the border now. The last bit sets my uncle off. Tells us to stay put and to keep the fire lit. He runs off to tell everyone to stay inside their trailers or tents. Comes back maybe 20 minutes later. Says to stay close to the fire and just not worry about it. Maybe 10 minutes later, one of the older guys pipes up, Don't panic, but it's above us. Obviously, everyone looks up. Don't see it at first. Notice this triangle of black where you can't see the stars or Milky Way. Dancers are getting edgy, asking what the hell it is. Uncle starts joking. Says it's a UFO, and shines his huge searchlight on it. Whole place hums and vibrates hard. Okay, I'll just stop that then. Turns the damn flashlight off. I'm starting to panic cause at first I thought it was just huge, but really high up. Flashlight showed that it's maybe 10 feet higher than the lodge. Rest of the night is pretty much the same. Sky starts to turn blue. Hear the hum, but no vibration. At around 3 p.m., it starts to drift away over the hill and out of sight. Uncle won't let anyone leave until it's full light out. Earn a good rest that day, so I sleep from sun up until sundown, when I gotta do firekeeping again. Body's killing me, but whatever. Here at the fire, the other 2 guys and half the family's left while I slept. Not sure when, but someone just makes a shushing noise and points up. Damn thing's right the fuck above us again. Does the same shit the second it starts getting light out. Been laying down all night, cause I wasn't feeling great. Second I stand up, I fall back down and vomit. Another day of resting, and I wake up for fire duty again. Grandma says I got sunburned from the day before, so my back and shoulders are now covered in something that smells like a skunk, and I still feel shitty. Managed to get through fire duty alright, despite the damn thing coming back again, and the camp's electricity going dead sometime during the night. Back's not even feeling too bad now, even though I still feel sick. Uncle pats me on the back for a job well done. It hurts so bad that I black out. Wake up in the hospital. It's a res hospital, they aren't the best. Not sure what, but the doc says I was pretty sick with something and had been out for 4 days. A good patch of skin on my shoulders, neck, and back had sunburned so bad they had to debride several inches of skin. Vacation ends pretty quickly after that, as I was healthy enough for the transfer back home. Doc's back home says it's definitely not sunburn, but just a plain burn, and my blood's platelet count is scarily low. Risk a skin graft on my thigh for the debrided area. Turns out I had minor flash burns to both my corneas. Heal up relatively well once the new symptom of coughing up blood subsided. Probably due to the platelet count, Doc said. After a year or so, I remember a bit more. Only really remember up to the lights hitting, then everybody screaming. Distinctly remember the burning and me falling to the ground. Only remember screaming up to the part where I'm just outside the camp, sprinting in. Life goes on for a bit with some nightmares. New therapist says it's just some basic PTSD from my fight with illness I wasn't fully conscious for. Nightmares are just lights, pain, and screaming, like I remember. Family decides I should still go back to the res every summer. Second I'm off the plane, Grandma drives 7 hours to Uncle's house. Uncle has a sweat lodge, and everything's set up waiting. Haven't even mentioned the dreams outside adopt a family. But the second my uncle sees me, he asks how often I've been having dreams. Tell him it's about once a week. Says we gotta hurry then. A whole night of prayers with the elders. Take skin sacrifices off my shoulders and rub sages and ashes into them. Don't really remember much, as I was 13, and our tribe burns herbs and sweats. Dreams stop, but every year something weird happens to me, or around me, at the lodge, though nothing crazy like the first time. Found out later that no one saw the lights, or heard the screaming, and we were gone for around an hour, when it should have been maybe 10 minutes round trip. Only time people heard us was when we were wildly flailing, trying to get into the lodge. No one else outside the lodge saw the triangle, but then again, they'd basically been quarantined. In the decades since, I've seen the same lights elsewhere, like on the lake or in the woods on camping trips, always with someone else, but nothing ever came out of it, and I've never seen the triangle since. Weird shit still happens on my property, but it seems to stay calmish so long as my dogs are on the property. But I've since thought about moving back to the res to try and figure all this shit out, and maybe take my uncle up on actually learning to be a medicine man. Too long didn't read. Shit happened that scared me so bad I'm willing to leave my white bread comfy life to go live on the res and protege as a medicine man. I don't normally comment on X, just lurk most of the time. But I saw this thread and figured, why the fuck not? I'll post. I had 3 different events. Might have to post them separately. Might not post all of them if I get tired of typing. I suck at greentext, by the way, so I'll just type it out. The first event I had was when I was a kiddo, although I didn't realize it until I was older. But my parents and school teachers did. Before 9/11, I was always drawing cities, and would put the Twin Towers in them burning, although I was like 4 at the time, and I had never even seen them or heard of them. I did this in my agenda notebook, on the desk, on paper at home, all the time. Nobody thought anything of it until 9/11 happened, and then everyone was quiet around me. They would try to be really nice to me. They wanted me to draw something other than burning towers. They never told me what, they just told me to draw whatever I wanted. Don't really remember much beyond that though. Fast forward about a decade and a half, I find my old agenda notebooks in the closet, and see 9/11 scribbles all over them from time periods far before 9/11. I finally went and asked my parents about it, and they were extremely squirmy on the subject, but finally, they had told me that I was drawing all of this before 9/11, and that they were hoping I would just forget. They had told me that my mother apparently predicted a bunch of plane crashes between the 60s and the 80s, all the way to excruciating detail, down to the exact locations they would hit, although she lost this ability when I was born. Apparently my grandmother and my great-grandmother had the same ability to varying other degrees. It's really made me question a lot of shit ever since though, to the extent that I seriously worry about my own thoughts. Story 2. Significantly after this, but before rediscovering this weird life event of mine, I had another incident take place. I had the day off and had gone to sleep, although once I had awoken in my dream, I didn't realize I was asleep. I lived out day after day, week after week, month after month in this dream that I didn't even know was a dream. However, it was not a good one. Eventually, at some distant future point, the space station was deorbited. I do not know if this was intentional or if it was normal orbital decay, or if it was even the ISS and not just one of those Chinese stations. Shortly after this, there was a limited nuclear exchange in which 36 nuclear weapons were detonated in the Texas Gulf region. I am unsure what happened with the rest of the country though, but I imagine it was catastrophic. Services never came back. Shortly after this came airstrikes. No idea from who. It honestly looked like some variant of Su-30 Russian plane, but only a few before those two eventually stopped. About a week after this, it got horrific. There were a bunch of anvil clouds that seemingly developed out of nowhere, and large spacecraft were seen in them. Not emerging Independence Day style, but as if the cloud itself was some kind of portal, and these ships were loitering halfway in and out of the portal. The ships were large, angular bricks shaped, but had no real texture to speak of. They were a sort of solid stone or slate gray, and they just sat there. We never saw anything come out of them. All we remembered were screams from everywhere, and these monsters that would peel the skin from children and parents and wear the skin, and they were capable of perfectly imitating the voices of the people whose skin they took. They did this to lure people out of their hiding spots and take them. Killing yourself to escape them would not work. They could reanimate the dead and keep you on some sort of life support for the sake of experimentation. I don't know why or how, but somehow I knew that if they took you, that you were theirs forever. There was no escape. However, they also had large facilities on the earth. They looked like normal warehouses, but the ones who wore people's skin were inside these. They would liquefy humans in here and keep them in devices that looked similar to dryers, and each liquefied human was kept in their own. And we had a hand scanner we could use to find where our parents' remains were, so we could steal them, so that they couldn't reconstitute the remains and make them suffer. Somehow, we could reconstruct the entire person back to what they were with this liquid. However, the ones who wore people's skin had these large pools ringed with symbols that looked similar to Zoroastrian dogmas. I don't know the spelling, and I don't know the pronunciation, and they would fill these pools with the people's liquefied remains and bathe in them, and their children would bathe in them and drink them, and they would try throwing people in. And if you fell in, then you were one of them. This went on until most of the human race had been wiped out. I do not remember most of what happened, as this was a single dream spanning almost 72 years. Eventually, though, their spacecraft was destroyed. Most of the life on Earth was destroyed. It had become a large desert. I remember there were still alligators, though, and whatever had transpired had killed the sun. It was slowly dying, as if perhaps they had siphoned energy from it to escape. I don't know if anyone intervened on our behalf, but I think someone did. But I remember I was walking with a girl in a blue dress. She was my wife. I don't have a wife in real life, mind you. But anyways, me and my wife in the blue dress were walking down the road. There was a small ditch on the left side with a few alligators in it, and a line of trees on the other following the ditch. We were walking home, and there were bits of these spacecraft everywhere. The sun looked like it was setting, but it wasn't. It was damaged or something, as I stated in the previous post. But we finally got home, and it was getting close to nighttime. I then remember her whispering to me very quietly, "We need to be quiet and turn all the lights off, or they'll see us." We did this, and saw lights on the horizon slowly blinking out, one by one. I don't know if the lights were really close enough or not, but I could swear I heard distant screaming, like there was a reason their lights were going off, as though even in our victory, we were still being hunted. I do not know what our enemy was. We all just called it them. I woke up after this, and realized I had been asleep for almost 14 hours. Normally I sleep 7.5. and that this 72 years of mine had all somehow been a complex fabrication of my imagination. Every single event leading up to this has happened so far again, every single last one, and I fear that either I am once again in the long dream, or that it has finally become reality this time, and we are about to see tribulation. Okay, wow. I didn't know that skinwalkers or goatmen or whatever were a thing, or allegedly a thing, I mean. So, I always thought I was the only one who'd experienced something like this, like maybe it was a hallucination or something. But after reading some of these stories, I'm starting to think maybe there's something there. Here's what happened. A few years ago, living with parents, step out for cigarette about 2 a.m. I fucking did do this story, god damn it. Whatever, we'll do it again. A few years ago, living with parents, step out for cigarette at about 2 a.m. Mom hated cigarettes. Had to sneak out back by the woods. Smoking. Noticed my neighbor Sean down at the edge of the woods, looking at me. What the fuck? Wave at him. He just stands there. Suddenly, it's hard to breathe. Like the air is thick, kind of humid I guess. And it smells the way pennies taste. Kick myself for being such a scaredy cat. Take a drag from cigarette. Smoke gets in my eye. If this has happened to you, you know that it hurts like a bitch. I'm forced to close my eyes and rub them for a few seconds. Look up, and Sean is closer to me, like he had walked from the edge of the forest. But now, he's stopped and standing still again. What was he doing in the forest anyway? What the fuck is going on? He waves, but it's like he's jerking his arm instead of moving it fluidly, like he's not sure what he's doing with it. What the fuck? Put out cigarette without taking eyes off of him. Back into the door and go in. Shut the door. Peek out window. He's staring right the fuck at me. Closer to the house. Maybe 10 or 15 yards away. Lock door. Sprint upstairs. Lock every door in the house. Go to double check every door. Double checking basement door. He's standing right outside the window, staring at me. His jaw is just kind of drooping. When I look at him, he does the jerking wave again. Scream with the force of 1,000 suns. Run upstairs. Encounter stepdad. He's like, "What the fuck are you screaming for, Anon?" I tell him there's someone outside. He gets his gun and checks. No one there. Ask neighbor about it at dinner one day. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. Fuck skinwalkers. Out camping / hunting in remote Canada. Historic native reserve land full of old camps and spiritual locations. Secluded, many miles wide gated area that very few have access to. Extremely remote, middle of nowhere in the mountains, in between no-name gas station towns. I've been trusted with a key by an elder / caretaker. I'm not a native, long story how I got access. Anyway, I'm camping with my girlfriend and her friend. We're way the fuck out there. Nobody else for at least 100 kilometers or more. Access gate locked behind us. 3 of us sleeping in the back of my pickup beside river. Around 4 a.m., we all wake up to a nearby noise. Sounds like talking. I shush the 2 girls and contemplate going into the truck and getting a shotgun. Listen more intently. There are 2 male voices very close by. They are arguing loudly over the noise of the rapid river water, yelling at each other in a language I could not recognize. Sounds like intense, rage-fueled fighting. We all hear it. Situation is tense. Suddenly, silence. Just the river noise now. Girls are fucking terrified. Go into my truck, grab the gun, stayed up scared for a couple hours until sun rose. Look around for evidence of another vehicle or people or anything. Can't find it. Leave immediately. Access road gate still locked. Later on, I tell the story to the aforementioned caretaker. Tells me I should stay away from that particular river camp.
Why? Men are buried there.
I thought he was just fucking with me at first, but I later returned to that area, and in the nearby woods, I was able to find numerous wooden plaques nailed to trees. They were old and rotten, but a few were recent enough to still have eligible writing in faded white paint on them. There were names and dates written on those plaques. I haven't gone back since.